Hi guys, this is jason.com and I'm here with a review of the Nokia 6. This is the 2017 edition of the Nokia 6, the smartphone that started the comeback for Nokia in the age of HMD Global. So this is a mid-range phone that was very successful in China and then it launched all over the world in 3GB RAM versions and 4GB RAM version. It's got a pretty solid 16 megapixel camera at the back. It's got dual speakers with Dolby Atmos Acoustics, and right now it's priced between $200 and $300, basically around $250–$280. Metal phone, mid-range phone, and very well selling in China. Now it's time to talk about the design. Of course, we are dealing with a 5.5 incher, which is quite wide and quite tall. It's made of metal. It has a pretty sturdy and solid build, but it's rather generic looks wise. The back tends to draw quite a bit of fingerprints and grease, as you can well see, and the measurements here are as follows: 7.85 millimeters in thickness, 169 grams, and just as a comparison, the Xiaomi Mi A1 with a similar diagonal is slimmer at 7.3 millimeters and also only a bit lighter at 165 grams. As you can see, I'm wielding it relatively easily, although it's quite wide and quite tall for my hands, which are not that small. Other than that, the color versions available here are Art Black, Matte Black, Tempered Blue, Silver, and there should also be a copper one. Now I have to say that the antenna lines from the back may be discreet, but once you see them you cannot unsee them, and they're a bit ugly in my book. So generic format, reasonably comfy unless you really want to hold the phone and use it properly with a single hand, and good build, solid build overall. Now it's time to talk about the display. Now that we've moved on from the design, it's an IPS LCD, obviously, with 5.5 inch diagonal available here, and the resolution of 1920 over 1080 pixels, and the aspect is the familiar 16:9. Gorilla Glass protection is in the mix. There's a 2.5D glass panel here, better seen with the screen off, gently curved on the sides. It's also laminated, and on paper we're promised 450 nits of brightness. Now the actual viewing experience will be put to the test pretty fast, since we will be using our typical test sample. Here we go. Now, first things first, let's turn the volume down. I have to say the colors are pretty vivid, not like an AMOLED, but still pretty vivid. We had wide view angles, a pretty okay brightness, not the best in the world, but quite okay. Acceptable contrast even in the sunlight. We also have a special option for that. However, the blacks feel a bit too white even for an IPS LCD, especially towards the bottom part of the screen. Now we also put the screen under the microscope and achieved a pixel arrangement of the RGB stripes variety, and then we measure the brightness and achieve a top level of 380 lux units, which is solid. It's no 400, which is usually the benchmark, but it's quite okay. It beats the AllView X4, Soul Infinity L, the LG Q6, and the Sony Xperia XZ Premium. Still, it scored less than the Motorola Moto M and the LG Nexus 5X or the Sony Xperia E4G. Now, as far as the settings are concerned for the screen, let's have a look at them. I was surprised to not find the glance feature here at first sight. We got brightness level, adaptive brightness, sunlight mode for improved readability, wallpaper, sleep, font size, display size, and navigation key light, all available here. Speaking of which, quite an odd integration of these keys so close to the bottom, which is a bit of a bummer in my view. As far as the CPU is concerned, we're dealing here with a octa-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 430. It could be familiar to you, maybe you've seen it on a Motorola, maybe you've seen it on other phones. Anyways, it's an octa-core, somewhere between entry-level and mid-range CPU. The GPU is the Adreno 505, and the handset has two versions, one with 3GB of RAM and one with 4GB of RAM, one with 32GB of storage and one with 64GB of storage, and a micro SD card slot. We have the one with 3GB of RAM and 32GB of storage. By the way, just in case you're wondering, from those 32GB, 10.61GB are being used. Luckily, I did not encounter any trace of lag. I opened up a bunch of apps, I played some games, had zero problems with lag on this phone, no freezes, no long loading time, proper app loading. I'm talking about the time it actually takes you to start an application I would say they're decent times for a mid-range phone. Not surprising, but also not sluggish. Now, as far as the games are concerned, I played Riptide GP Renegade, but also, if you look at our sister site Android Pipe, we've played Tekken Mobile, and Tekken on mobile is a new thing. Yes, I want to restore the saved game. Restore. Here we go. So as I said before, Tekken on mobile is a new game. It's a fighting game with pretty kick-ass graphics. I have to admit the phone did get a bit overheated, but the graphics were fine, although some lag was present in Tekken. Now let's see how Riptide handles the load, the workload. You also have options. In case you're not happy with the graphics here, you can tweak them from the settings. So far so good. Nice frame rate, good looking water, pretty solid brightness, texture, aliasing, and so forth. So gaming wise, things check out. And no overheating in the first minute at least, but in the long run, you may experience some heat. Okay, we are done with the gaming. Time to talk about the benchmarks. We also did those, and let's see what came out of that experience. Okay, so we go here, we did a battery of tests, so we did the Antutu and so forth. This is Antutu. In this benchmark, we surpassed the Nokia 5, obviously, also the AllView X4 So Lite and the Sony Xperia L1, but also scored below the Motorola Moto G4 and also below the Lenovo K6, which are not exactly heavy hitters. In Geekbench, these are the scores we achieved, quite modest. Here in the multi-core test, we were able to surpass the Motorola Moto M and the ZTE Nubia N1 plus the Moto G5, but scored below the Nokia 5, which is a bit of a shocker. Also below the Blueboo S1 and the Huawei P10 Lite. We also did a graphical benchmark. It's called 3D Mark Slingshot 3.0. We actually did a bunch of slingshot benchmarks. Well, things to remember here, we beat the Lenovo K6, also the AllView X4 So Lite, but scored below the Nubia Z11 Mini, the Moto G4 and the Xiaomi Redmi 4. You can find all of the benchmarks, all of the tests we did in the full text review that will be published soon. And these are the promised slingshot tests. Overall, a pretty underwhelming set of benchmarks. We scored below the LG Q6 and the Huawei P9 Lite 2017, although we're in the same price range. Now, if you're wondering about the temperature, we also did that kind of test, so we achieved 39.8 degrees Celsius after running Riptide GP Renegade, you know, the game from before, and we achieved 36.9 degrees Celsius after running GFX Bench, so no overheating on, well, paper, or better said testing. In real life, if you play a game more than 10-15 minutes, there will be some overheating of the back side. So the performance, not exactly champion, but at least there is no perceivable lag. On the battery front, pretty typical 3000 mAh lithium-ion battery, which was also put to the test with video playback first. So let's see just how well we actually did. Okay, so we achieved the video playback time of 9 hours and 58 minutes, which is quite okay. If you're gunning for watching a TV show, you're almost there for 10 episodes. It beats the Huawei Mate 8 and the iPhone 7 Plus, scores below the LG Q6 and the Nokia 5. Now, the other test, the one that matters most, is PCMark, continuous usage, where here we scored 7 hours 22 minutes, which is a bit underwhelming. It's just okay, not the worst in the world, certainly, but also not the best. It beats the Huawei P10, the Motorola Moto Z, scores below the Nokia 3 and the Blueboo S1, as well as the Lenovo Vibe X3. Okay, so that's what the handset has to offer us in the battery department. Now it's time to talk about the charging. The phone is able to charge and juice up in 2 hours 28 minutes, which is acceptable for a mid-ranger, and the equal of the Huawei Mate 10 Lite and the Sony Xperia X Compact. If you want extra stats, 5 minutes means 5% charge, 15 minutes 16% charge, and 30 minutes 34%, while 1 hour is 60% basically. Now, settings related to the battery are pretty straightforward and pretty stock. Just go here, you got your battery saver, you got your background activity manager, and battery optimization. Time to talk about the acoustics. On the acoustics front, I have good news. This actually feels a bit superior to the Nokia 8 we actually reviewed recently. So, stereo speakers, one at the bottom and one at the top, which is actually the earpiece. We're using stereophony with Dolby Atmos Acoustics and a dedicated amplifier. Now, the music player here has some ups and downs. And the up is that it's stock, it's pretty straightforward, easy to use for everyone. The down is that they swapped the stock equalizer and replaced it with just 2 options of the Dolby variety equalizer. You got your Dolby surround sound with music mode and theater mode, no extra tweaks that I can think of. Now let's actually listen to some tunes and draw some conclusions, so here we go. Okay, conclusions. So when holding the phone in landscape, it's not very easy to cover it unless you really want to grip it properly. You may cover it sometimes, but usually I did not have this problem. Now, the volume was quite okay in my book. The sound was loud, clarity was okay. I find that the highs are a bit too prominent versus the lows. The bass is decent, there's a bit of a vibration at the backside, and there's no distortion. And actually, not a bad surround from the 2 speakers, still below the Xperia's in case you were wondering. Now I also mentioned we did some tests, of course. We have decibel meter tests here, actually a bunch of them. So this one is actually more underwhelming, 73.7 decibels at the top of the phone, and we have another one with 81.6 decibels which happen at the bottom of the phone. These are achieved with the typical acoustic sample. It beats the Motorola Moto G5 and the LG V10, scores below basically 100 other phones that we tested, including the Nokia 3. Now the other test is the one involving Riptide GP Renegade, and here we achieved 96.9 decibels, quite solid, is the equal of the Galaxy A3 2017, beats the Google Pixel 2 XL, and that's no small feat. Still, the LG Q6 in the same price range is louder. We have also FM radio, which is available here, and go back to our unboxing, check out the headphones. They're pretty straightforward, you can find them in any electronics store, they're generic, they're not very loud, not very comfy, and the bass is unimpressive. So generic headphones, you could be better off with maybe other ones from other devices. Now on the camera front, at the back, 16 megapixel shooter, face detection autofocus, 1 micron pixels, f2.0 aperture, dual tone flash, microphone here if I'm not mistaken, and at the front, 8 megapixel camera, autofocus, which is important, full HD filming, f2.0, and a field of view of 84 degrees. Now we open up the camera app, not the snappiest in the world, still opening. The zoom also not very fluid, but picture taking, well, reasonably fast, not the fastest in the world. What surprised me was actually that the focus is not bad speed-wise. Very straightforward options, rather basic. Beautify photos and panorama. Some extras here. We got your compass, level, grid, capture settings. You can even trigger a manual mode, which will offer you tweaks related to white balance, focus, metering, and other things. So go here, choose manual, and you can play with white balance, exposure, focus, and metering. That's it in a nutshell. Now we go to the actual gallery. I always like to do that because we have a lot of shots. We usually go overboard and take hundreds of pics. Here we go, including selfies, of course. It was a pretty sunny day. We took advantage of a sunny early February day, and let's see what came out of that experience. If you saw a recent review of the Nokia 8, we were left a bit underwhelmed. And here we were actually a bit overwhelmed, so I'm happy with the selfies. I'm talking about the skin color and skin texture. It's probably the beard and the hair that came out the best. It was also a sunny day, so that helped us. I also have to say that the background isn't half bad. Some of the phones neglect the background in order to create better selfies. The HDR tends to burn the images a bit. It flares up the contrast too much. In general, I was happy with the colors, nice reds, nice blues and yellows, so color calibration is okay. For a mid-ranger, getting so close for close-ups is always a plus. I've seen many phones where I have to actually tap to focus properly on a close-up. Not a problem here, so that's nice. Instagram worthy close-ups, Facebook worthy ones. Some problems with the dynamic range if the sun is coming out of the clouds, but if you're gunning for details, those are not bad. I zoomed in about 4x or 5x on ducks, and I have to say, I'm not seeing any grain here, so that's a big plus. Overly enthusiastic HDR indeed, very close close-ups, good colors. We played with the focus here a bit, focused on the bridge or on this pipe. It's no bokeh, but still you can play with it, and that's nice. Once again, some more well-rendered colors. There is no oversaturation, the colors aren't washed out, so in the end they're well calibrated. Several more shots, including some selfies with the hat off, so you can actually see the texture of the beard and the hair. And once again, we're very happy with the selfies. I have to admit, they were actually above my expectations, especially those taken in the sun. So overall, I would put this on par with the LG Q6, maybe the Xiaomi Mi A1, and also the Huawei P10 Lite and P9 Lite 2017. There are many drawbacks here, actually pleasant surprises, maybe sometimes the dynamic range, no blurred shots, also no missed shots, and pretty solid details and colors overall. Now, as far as the low light capture is concerned, we also have photos of that sort, so let's go to them. A lot of shots, rest assured you'll see them all in the full text review. During the nighttime we have a bit of a problem. There is a lot of blue happening here, and the flash also does not help. It kind of washes out the image a bit, and also the flash is not powerful. I have a problem with the fact that every image has that hue of blue covering it, like a blue grain that sneaks in and steals the soul of the image. Well, at least they're not overly yellow. I would say the clarity is decent. Sadly not very bright even compared to other mid-ranges. As you can see here, the blue and the grain feels like something that would be fixed with a patch, feels like a bug, not a feature, and the details less impressive than during the daytime. If they fixed the blue thing with a patch, things would be decent. Other than that, it behaves like a B brand phone from China, like something like a Ligu, Elephone, Blueboo, something like that. And the street light halos are a bit on the big side. It's a pity because we don't have much yellow here. That's a plus during the nighttime. Anyways, time to go to the videos. MP4, Full HD, 30 frames per second, 20 mega per second, which we like. We start off with this one. You can hear people chatting. Sadly, the wind is not phased well by the microphone. I was actually surprised by the video capture here. It's a quality video capture. I'm talking about clarity, colors, details, stabilization, electronic of course, not that impressive. And also the exposure changed quite fast, but when you're filming, not trying to focus on the exposure, you'll see that there's a bit of a dynamic range problem with the sun coming out from the clouds. Another sample here. Once again, this area seems a bit burned, seems a bit white because of the sun. It takes a while to adjust. And another good thing, even though there's this shakiness and this whole dynamic range thing, I have good news. The details are awesome. Zoom in onto the ducks. And surprise, I actually cannot see the grain. Not only here, but also on my big screen, on the PC or on the TV. So details are actually kinda nice. I even find this superior to the Xiaomi Mi A1. It gets close to Sony Xperia levels, nice colors, and too bad for the dynamic range thing. Otherwise, quite good filming. Here we are, another video. Shaky. A bit burned background. I imagine that during the summer the problems with the dynamic range would be greater. We also have a bunch of slow-mos that came out okay. Actually not bad. We're in LG Q6 territory, maybe Xiaomi Mi A1, even Zenfone 3, which is a mighty nice comparison. Some stabilization, electronic of course, at least there's no refocus. Yes, I know it's shaky, but at least there's no refocus. And front camera video, if you're a vlogger, you may see that there's the sun behind me, which is a big no-no, but when we get rid of the sun, results are actually quite decent. So if you're planning on doing some vlogging, your face will be well rendered. The background is blurry, but people will understand what you're saying and see your expression. So in the end, it surpasses the likes of the Chinese B brands, those Blueboo Elephones, things like that. Plays on par with LG Q6 and the Xiaomi Mi A1, maybe the Zenfone 3, and gets closer to the Xperias, which is a compliment. In low light conditions, once again we have the same problem, the blue hue, the darkness, the lack of stabilization, and we're only left with the colors being decent. That's about it. filming during the night is the weak point of the camera. So maybe with a patch, with an update, or with Android Oreo, it can get rid of the problems. Now, we go to other things, like for example, the web browser, in this case Chrome. Let's fire it up and see how it goes. So far so good. Pretty fast loading of our website. The results were pretty underwhelming in the benchmarks, SunSpider and Jetstream and so forth. The keyboard here is stock with a touch of swipe. And now let's go to the connectivity. On the connectivity front, we have a micro USB 2.0 port at the bottom with USB OTG. There's the audio jack at the top. There's Bluetooth 4.1 in the mix. We got Wi-Fi A, B, G, N. There's NFC. This is a dual SIM phone. Let's see what else. There's 4G LTE of the category 4 kind. Basically 150 megapsec downloads promised on paper. GPS, GLONASS, FM radio. And the actual calls were pretty loud and clear, although they felt a bit metallic. And the noise cancelling was so-so. Now I want to go to the screenshots to show you the speed test with pretty good results. I was actually shocked by how good the 4G was. 142 megapsec downloads on 4G, not bad. 45 megapsec uploads, and on Wi-Fi 88 and 25, I would say rather modest, but still okay for a mid-range phone. On the software front, Nokia started its new age under HMD Global by saying we're doing the clean OS thing, we're doing the fast updates. They offered Android Oreo quite fast. I did not receive it in my region, but should be coming in a few days. So right now we're running on Android Nougat. And let's see exactly which version. Android 7.1.2, receiving Oreo in a matter of days, maybe hours. Other than that, pretty fluid experience, pretty typical and straightforward. We get the typical wallpapers, the stock widgets, the carousel multitasking, also the split screen thingy happens. One here, okay, and the other photos, so you can browse your photos and browse the web at the same time via split screen multitasking. Now that's done and dusted. We have the Google feed here with your news, your weather, your favorite team scores and all that. This is the Google feed. We have the drop down section with your notifications, your music player and your quick settings, all of them stock. We can add a new user if you want to, and then we delve into the settings area, which is also, guess what, stock. So we got your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, SIM cards, data usage, display, notifications, sound, app, storage, battery. There's tap and pay, there are gestures, basically just one. To quickly open the camera, double press the power button, and here we are. Useful, I've seen it on many Galaxy S devices and now it's here. Motion, a few gestures, and also there's security. Now, as you can probably tell, we have a fingerprint scanner here embedded into the not very comfy home button. Let's set it up, secure it with a pin, hopefully one better than the one I just inputted. Okay, add a fingerprint, and if you remembered our review for the Nokia 8, it was a pretty annoying process. And guess what? It's annoying again here. Not the comfiest button in the world, for sure. Very tiny, very narrow, and you have to be patient. And try to get all the angles right. And here we are done. Time to see how the actual unlocking goes. Press it once, go away from here, 90 degrees, it's okay, and 180 degrees, it's also okay. So accuracy, okay, length of setup, not okay. When it comes to the pre-installed applications, well, there's 27 of them, everything is stock, everything is Google, calculator, calendar, camera, Chrome, clock, contacts, downloads, Duo, and so forth. The Play Suite, everything stock Google affair. Now, you probably figured out there's no glance feature here. I don't know why. Maybe it's coming with Oreo, maybe it's not coming at all. In the end, well, we reached the end of the review. It's time for the pros and cons. On the pro side, we got a solid build. a pretty okay display in spite of not being hugely bright. I would say that the video playback time of the battery is quite okay. We got stereo speakers that perform with Dolby, quite loud, not bad pictures and selfies to be honest, good colors and details, the video capture is okay, we got a pretty clean OS and UI, solid 4G results, and overall a pretty nifty experience with the promise of a reasonably fast Android audio. Now those are the pros. On the con side, the design is, let's face it, generic. The phone is a bit too wide and too tall to be comfy. The buttons also a bit too flat. I would say that the benchmark performance was totally underwhelming. The CPU is not future-proof, there's a bit of overheating in games, in longer sessions. The battery is not that impressive overall, and the earphones honestly could have been better than those of the Nokia 3310. Buggy low light capture, it's very blue, and the Wi-Fi, I expect it to be higher, just look at the 4G. In the end, for something between $200 and $300, you're not getting a bad deal. However, in the same price range, you're getting a better deal with the Xiaomi Mi A1 and also the Huawei P9 Lite 2017. Those are actually a bit better and actually much better in performance. Keep that in mind. They have a better Snapdragon CPU. This one performs as a media phone, has good music, it has good video playback, and the camera, I have to admit, I was actually surprised by it, pleasantly surprised, in spite of the bugs in low light capture. Now, when everything's said and done, basically just the performance is a bummer for this phone. When it gets audio, it might experience a bump, although not sure about that, it remains to be seen. If you find it with audio, if you find it with an update that fixes the low light capture, it's a solid purchase. Other than that, you can wait a bit and see if the price drops, who knows. So in the end, for Nokia's return, it's a fine mid-ranger that makes a compromise in performance which is not felt by you, the user, but it's also not a future-proof phone. If you want selfies, if you want good acoustics and a pretty solid screen, this is the phone for you, especially if you're faithful to the Nokia brand and don't want to risk maybe switching to a Chinese phone, which sometimes they're actually quite okay. This is from gsno.com. This has been the review of the Nokia 6 2017.